I just remind everybody that Kaitaia will be listening into the room, and so if there's specific people for Kaitaia to translate, it's hard for him when there's 2 to 3 people talking. So that's just another housekeeping for us to keep in mind. Now, Joe Slaughter, lovely, thank you, Oriel. I just want to mihi to everybody for making today happen. It's lovely to be in Te Ahu. And yeah, to see more of our staff as well who are from this corner of our region, kia ora. And I'd also like to mihi to those who have passed. We had our dear Kaumātua Patu Bohipa pass away, and it all happened quite quickly, so some of us couldn't even able to get to the hui mati. So haere atu rā kia hoki i kia i Hatinga. Tātou kia rātou katoa no kia tāwhai te kunga ora nā reira koutou katoa. So let's move into it. Any apologies? Apologies. Item 4, declarations of intro. You can remind that can be raised per item as well. Okay, there we go. Item 20.
And this one, the last one, we have received with operational supplementary reports. And more apologies, one of those came to the
Okay, I think we'll have moving that, seconding that, thank you. All in favour, say aye. Against, that's carried. Thank you, Chris. Looking forward to going item later. Now to the minutes. Item 5, page 6. I'm going to move those. Your present, Marty will second. We have a little check.
Oh, sorry.
Any discussion? Just to repeat to the minutes. I've moved it by the next second. There's no discussion of items. All the 5 years and we make motion, all the favors say aye. Agreed, that's carried. Thank you. And then over to the action sheet. Item 5.2, page 17.
On that. Okay, just a second page.
We have Marty and Peter Lucas. I'm just going to check to see Councillor Joe. Thank you. We can continue the discussion on the action sheets if anybody wants to discuss it. Okay, just wait till we come out. You right, Joe?
Yeah, next week.
It's fine. Look, you know, for us to wait a few minutes so that everybody's not. All right. So that was moved by Marty and seconded by Peter Lucas. All in favour say aye. Against, that's carried.
You know. Benefit. Stay by the money. put them on main line, won't they? Yeah.
Thank you for that, Vicky. But for those, moving on to 6.1, adoption of the 2023 annual report, page 19. Who would like to move that? Rick's moving. Do I have a second? Peter Lucas.
Five.
Sorry?
Moving all.
Yes, moving on. We have to
Yes.
acknowledging council has gone through this numerous times over the year, and thank you to staff as well for preparing this. Would anybody like to discuss any of those? Oh, okay.
It's been the Wits Water online.
All right, everyone. Yes, Benny here, and I have a leaf with me.
Hey,
We can hear you.
Oh, sorry, it cuts out a bit. Would you like us to go through the annual 3-hour report like we normally do?
Yes, please.
Okay, apologies. It does sound like it's cutting out sometimes. Okay, so look, thanks for having us. I'll take the report as read. I have a copy in front of me. I don't know exactly if the page numbers align, but what I'll do is I'll just take it as read and I'll do a page turn and highlight some of the key sections. But so I'll start perhaps with section 2A, the status of the audit. That's really just sort of checking. There were a couple of final bits and pieces that we needed to close out, at the time of issuing our report. Those have all been closed out now, so we're ready to sign our audit opinion once council's adopted the annual report. So just wanted to extend our thanks to everyone involved, in particular Simon and the finance team. It's always a lot of work and a lot of effort that goes into this very good position to be in. I'll move on then to the next piece, and I'll probably stand still here. Section 2C, the areas of audit focus, just quickly. So when we do the audit, we look at everything in the annual report and the statement of service performance and financial statements. Of course, there's a wide variety of things that we touch on. Those areas that are listed out there are probably the ones that carry a little bit more focus for various reasons, either because they're judgmental or they're mandated by the auditing standards. Now, this follows the same plan that we put forward earlier. I think it was in May of this year. So there's been no changes to that plan or to any of the risks, that we laid out in the initial plan. And we'll report on that further down the report. So if I just run through them on the next page, the first area of focus, and this is the focus area because of the quantum of the numbers, and there's quite a bit of judgment that goes into it. It's around the asset valuations, around infrastructure assets and investment properties. Council carries those at what is termed the fair value in the annual report. So in terms of our approach there, we've done the work around meeting with the valuers, looking at the valuation reports, any significant judgments or key assumptions are made. We've tested that to make sure that it actually makes sense, that it's supportable. We quote the numbers there in terms of the valuation uplifts. The infrastructure assets is probably the more complex one because it's done on the basis of optimized depreciated replacement cost, which is quite a complex calculation. Was last valued in 2020, which is a while ago. So at the end of the day, we've done all our work in that, and we've got no significant issues or audit adjustments to report on that. So I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions on the valuations in particular before I move on.
Any questions? That'll be fine to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, the next piece is council's investment assets. So it's quite a bit of money, about $73.5 million invested with various fund managers in various be it bonds, term deposits, equity investments. So because of that, we do quite a bit of work around, you know, the carrying values of those investments. We get confirmations from the investment managers. We look at the investment managers themselves.
Is
Whether
it
they
you
have-
hear us? We've lost. Have you pushed mute by any chance?
No. Can you hear me now?
Hello? Oh, just maybe pause.
I can hear you. Leaf, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
We're on page 176. 176. Even back 10 of the order, but it's straight.
Can you hear us? Alif can hear me? Yeah. Okay.
You can try now.
Testing, testing.
Can you speak again, Benny?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're back again now.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So I don't know where I lost you, but it was around the investments. I'll just maybe start again on that. So the next area of focus is around council's investments, $73.5 million sitting with various fund managers in various types of investments. So we do quite a bit of work around that. In particular, what we're looking at is because you're investing money with fund managers and they're investing money on your behalf, we look at compliance with the investment policy of council, as well as which funds or fund managers don't actually provide internal controls reports. And by that, I mean auditors would normally go in to many of these organizations and look at the internal controls around, you know, they're reporting to you as investors, you know, the internal controls they have, making sure that, you know, the books are in order, the money is invested where it is supposed to be invested, and that they're reporting the right valuations to you. So we have an observation on that was carried on from last year, which I'll leave just in a minute. Alif can talk you through that. But no material issues noted in that in the carrying value of those investments or in terms of compliance with the governance and compliance with the statement of investment policy and objectives. The next bit is around, and this is a mandatory focus area under the audit rules that we need to look at. It's around the fees and the charges revenue that council's recorded. So we do a lot of legislative compliance checks around rates and fees and everything that's been charged. We test from audit testing around, you know, the accuracy and validity of those revenue numbers. Again, no issues to report in terms of legislative compliance or, you know, with the accounting standards. And of course, there's been no new accounting standards that govern any of that. So nothing to report on that front. Then the next bit is around override of controls, and that's just us turning our minds to the possibility that a fraud can occur within the organization in various forms, but in particular around when it comes to the annual report around misrepresenting things or overriding existing controls through various means, specifically using manual entries or journal entries in the general ledger system to shift things around or misrepresent anything. So we do a very targeted approach on that. We look at certain entries that exhibit certain criteria, certain transactions for anything. And in that front, good results. Nothing that came up from our testing on that front that we needed to report. The next bit was the flooding. Yeah, sorry.
What's the percentage of transactions that you do order? Is it cut on a sort of just targeting anything in specific, or just random?
Yeah, so it's not based off a percentage of transactions. So we set a criteria. So I'll give you as an example. We might say find all entries that have a certain narration to it. Let's say correction is used in the entry or reallocation, and we'll run an electronic data tool that will extract all those entries that have that in the description. And we'll scrutinize that and see and try and understand what they are. And if there's anything that don't make sense or unexpected, we'll go further and investigate the support and the approvals around those. So can't really put a percentage on it. It's absolutely dependent on very much qualitative characteristics rather than the numerical side of things. So we might, in some cases, be looking at fairly small entries just because of what they are and the qualitative nature of them. All right. The flooding events is the next piece. That was an OAG mandated focus area for this year, and probably not really that relevant to Northland Regional Council because of your assets hasn't been affected that much. So we've done, like we said, had a look at potential indicators of impairment of assets as a result of that, spoke to valuers, spoke to management, had a look at anything that would indicate, flooding damage or flooding events would have, impacted any structural assets or anything that would require impairment. And the answer to that was we didn't find anything of note on that. Then the last bit is around the public sector lens that we apply, along following the Auditor General's requirements, looking at things like procurement, capital expenditure delivery, those sorts of things. So we set out our approach and our procedures that we've done in that regard. We've got 2 audit findings on that, which I think this sort of it's around compliance with conflict, timeliness of interest registers and declarations, but nothing else to really report on that. And I think that sort of segues into the next piece of our report, which is around the internal control observations, which I can hand over to Alif to just at a high level touch on them, and we can take questions if you like. Alif.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Benny. So just on page 15, under section 2D, we've got some internal control findings, some very minor ones like Benny mentioned before, but the first one was a lack of a 3402 internal controls report. So just mind you, this is a recurring finding that we found in the prior year as well. So we just noted that there were 5 fund managers that don't conduct a 3402 internal controls report. And in terms of the nitty gritty and the specifics behind it, I think it's a requirement of Statement of Investment Policies and Objectives, section 9D, and the requirement is that fund managers are audited and they produce an internal control report. The reason why we make this recommendation and the benefit I think it would provide council is I think it just adds to some of the governance processes. And it sort of allows council to form a view on the quality of the systems, the processes and the controls. Like we said, it is a pretty minor finding and it is a recurring one from prior year. I will pause here if anyone has any questions regarding this or if Benny wants to add anything.
Yeah, I'll probably just add, you'll notice the number there that you essentially have $3.5 million in aggregate funds invested across 5 fund managers. But if you want to call it exposure, that call it that. But so none of them are individually material amounts, but quite a few of them have more than $500,000 invested with them. So yeah, happy to take questions on that point.
Yeah, so my first question is, I was actually trying to work out if the 5 fund managers, are they an increase or decrease in last year? Are they different ones? And that's the first question. So are we better? Are we doing better or are we doing worse than last time? Just based on muscle memory from the prior year board report, we had 6 last year and we have 5 this year. In terms of if they are the same ones, I would have to check and get back to you.
I think they are the same one. Yeah.
So Stuart, I know this is a question. Do these, how come we didn't do anything about them last year? That's what I'd like. Any ideas?
Okay, to the best of my knowledge, last year when this was brought up, and we did bring it up at both the subcommittee level and at council level, and that was that you have a choice, that is to either put those fund managers on notice that if you don't do this, we will withdraw our fund. Now, it was advised at the time, and I believe it was advised at the time, and I asked Jonathan Erickson to provide us with another statement this year. We don't have it, unfortunately, and that is to say, what are the consequences and what's his recommendation in relation to how we proceed with those funds. Last year, it was advised that it wouldn't be advisable to withdraw the funds. And I haven't had the advice for this year yet. I know that I mentioned that to Bruce a week ago, and he dropped Jonathan Erickson a line on that very subject. I haven't heard the response. But it's really for this council to think about what they would want to do in relation to those fund managers on a go forward basis.
Chair, just to add to what Stuart said, two things. One, since last time the audit report, we've added into the site code this requirement. Two, you'll notice in the right-hand column, the management response that we're bringing a paper to the November investment and property subcommittee to consider exactly those 5 investments that we've got and to provide advice on those investments.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think, Melly, if you can move on to the next one.
Sounds good. The next one was a requirement in relation to the conflict of interest forms. So the Local Authorities Members Act 1968 requires that all councillors perform a conflict of interest declaration, and these need to be performed before year end. So in relation to council, these need to be completed before 30th June 2023. In the process of obtaining these conflict of interest forms, we found that we obtained some that were incomplete or weren't provided in a timely manner, which kind of meant that we weren't able to sort of perform some audit procedures around the conflict of interest register. Again, a minor one, and I think what we sort of recommend as best practice is to make sure that council is legislatively compliant, to ensure that there's a process that is implemented that all conflict of interest registered are performed in a timely manner, and they're also done for the purpose that they're sort of intended for. Anything to add, Benny?
No, it's a housekeeping matter, if I would summarize it, that we got them in the end. They're there, but it's about timeliness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions, or can I move on to the next one?
So, right, move on.
Jack?
Just Jack Crawl, councillor. Will this require more work for you guys to do in the immediate?
Not necessarily. We got them in the end. We just got them late, so yeah, we can, at the end, we managed to do our audit procedures. We'll do the same next year. We'll see whether there's been improvements on our recommendations or how our recommendations has been addressed. It'll depend on how next year plays out. Yeah.
You also note again in the right-hand column management's response that we'll be reviewing the process will be provided to council, and we'll be providing any recommendations on how we can provide some improvements through the audit of next audit.
Sounds good. And then the third one is relatively similar to the second one as well. So the second one was obviously about the conflict of interest register. This one was about the pecuniary interest register. So sort of similar requirement where the Local Government Pecuniary Interest Act 2022 requires that these are also performed before year end as well. And it's in relation to the same recommendation that these just be provided in a timely manner and just be filled out for the intended purpose of it. So similar to the second one, really.
Yeah, look, from an audit perspective, it just delays our audit procedures on that a little bit, and we
Sure, Chair, whilst it doesn't say the management column there for some reason, we'll come back to auditors or any opportunities of improvement.
okay. Right, thanks, Alif. I'll move on to the next bit of section 2E, which is the summary of unadjusted audit differences. Now, what that is entries or audit differences that were picked up during the course of the audit that have not been adjusted in the annual report and the financial statements. And the reason for that is because management have concluded that they are not material, and we essentially agree with that assessment. I'll summarize nothing on the council side. The only entries that we have comes from council's investment in Marsden Maritime Holdings, which is consolidated 100% on the group numbers. So we got those entries. That's from EY's audit of Marsden Maritime Holdings. Look, and it's really just around reclassifications on the balance sheet of some of their financial assets and liabilities at the group level. So you could probably take that as a clean error schedule for the council. Marsden Maritime Holdings just only at the group level. So yeah, none of those affecting equity or profit or loss. And as I said, concluded that it's immaterial. Then the next piece around omitted disclosures. No surprises, there's a lot of disclosure requirements in terms of what needs to go into the annual report. We take a look at the annual report and we apply materiality lens to that. And we've not identified anything that we felt that needs that's material that's not been disclosed in the annual report, which is good. Look, the other pieces in the next couple of sections is just it's information that we have to share with councils, but it's fairly similar to what was in our planning report around independence, fraud, responsibilities. Other communications in part 3C is just around any non-compliance with laws and regulations, nothing material there. Related parties, we're happy with the disclosures. We've done procedures around, completeness of that. Our representation letter has been circulated. That's what will require to be signed before we can issue our audit opinion. And then just around our responsibilities in terms of the other information that sits next to the annual report, or to the financial statements in the annual report. So we'd have a look at what is disclosed. We read that. Look for any material inconsistencies with what is being disclosed in the financial statements. There's none of that that came to mind, so it's a good result as well. Yeah, and that's pretty much sums up our report. Happy to take any other questions on that.
So much. This was my first experience with the audit, and I really appreciate it. I think you can just go into it with an openness to be, to have our systems examined and see how we can improve. So really appreciate that. Joe.
Oh, yes, just a question. How often does a new council have to renew all the delegations from council to the staff? What's the requirement there? Delegations of authority, various
There's an expectation that, well, it's part of your policies, right? Your delegated authority policies. So I need to check. I don't think there's anything specific in the Act that says you have to, from it, but expectation is that it's regularly reviewed. Now, that regularly reviewed normally happens around every 3 years at least. But yeah, or when there's deficiencies have been identified, you know, in the systems or shortcomings. There is some OAG best practice guidance that's been published. It's being refreshed every year, so it's always a good idea for council to look at that and see what the latest guidance is from the OAG and from the public sector, and compare your delegations and authorities against that. So, but nothing specific in the legislation.
Also, last time we reviewed that financial delegation, we have to.
I'll acknowledge your achievement. We last reviewed it, but I do know that the issue was raised in the last one, the rest committee, and then Bruce is bringing so you brought that to through the store and others. This is not just financial delegation. Through the chair, kia ora, Benny. Thank you very much. I just had a quick question on 3B, independence fees. The review of rating processes and controls, review of council's internal audit maturity, and fraud and corruption risk assessment, are they annual reviews, or are they? I note that you've got the same amount for previous year and current year. I thought they were kind of like one-offs that you do. You know, as I say, every 3 years. Am I wrong in that?
I will need to check that, Stuart. It could be that we overlooked that. My apologies, but yeah, you're right. That is not annual. No. Yeah, I will have to check that for you. If we're wrong, I apologize for that. It's an oversight. The review of the rating processes and controls, that is something different. That is the rating processes and controls where we do it, the other councils that collect rates on your behalf. That is annual because it's the only way that we can actually get comfort over the controls and processes around your rates collections at those councils. If you were to do that internally, we would have spent that time and effort internally doing it. So in order to, well, we have to go into those councils on a rotational basis, like Whangarei, for example, is what we did this year, to see that, you know, their controls and processes are robust around your rates collections. So that one will be annual. The other two, the audit maturity and the fraud and corruption risk assessment, I'll certainly have just double check that one. It might be that we, you know, overlooked that. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Benny.
Yeah.
Someone reminded my the 12%, 13% increase in fee payable. I don't remember the previous years as to whether that's an annual increase, CPI adjusted. The extra work done for the extra fees of, say, 13%.
You're talking about. Sorry, I didn't get all of that. It's breaking up a little bit.
The increase in fees payable of about, I'm just guessing, 13% on the.
Right. Okay. On the base audit fee, like so the background to that is that base audit fee for 2022 was part of a 3-year agreed audit proposal that was signed back in 2020. Since then, and it's no secret throughout the audit sector, you know, cost pressures have come on in terms of auditor shortage in particular, and increased compliance costs to the point where audit fees in general have increased, you know, significantly. So the uplift is to realign back to what the going market rate is for the since the fee was set in 2020. So in 2020, when that initial fee was set for the 2022 audit, it would have been based on assumptions around the CPI of probably 1 or 2%, very low, and would not have anticipated the impact that COVID and everything else has had on it. So is it an annual increase? No, at this stage, we're not setting fees on 3-year terms anymore. We agree them, on an annual basis. We're certainly hoping, I doubt that we'll be seeing that level of increase again going forward. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Steve, do you want to?
No, all I want to say was that, well done to regional council, given that there's only 4 findings and all really minor in the overall scheme of things. So, Benny and the team are professional skeptics, so they're coming in to disprove it. So if they don't find anything, then it's all good. So, no, excellent job.
Just Benny and Marty, we were advised of these fee increases like 6 months ago, so they're not just surprised. Yeah, so we didn't know they were coming.
Yeah, I think actually the first my predecessor actually sent the first draft of this in April 2022. But it's been a long process working it through with the OAG.
I did just ask for the Monday.
Any other questions? John?
Just going back, so this is really important process for councils to gain confidence of councils working with that, with hands off and that's it. And I've been in council where the audit was done and it actually missed a heap of a lot. And the issue. So how confident going forward that I can have full confidence in your audit?
Again, sorry, it's breaking up quite badly. I apologize. So if you want to try again, yeah, I'm getting sort of snippets of your question. Yeah.
We would have considered those things when we decided that they were the people to go out with it. Are there any other questions? Any other comments in regards to what has already been made? Oh.
Yeah.
We don't want to go into that council and their issues. I think that wouldn't be appropriate in a full public.
This audit that he's giving us, which is fine. As long as
It's pretty good. One of the comes from the office of the auditor general.
You can remind John.
Sorry,
Through the chair, Councillor, tomorrow there is an opportunity for you to have council only time with the auditor. And it's going to be a great place for you to, ask those questions. That's what I've said about it.
Any other part-time? Coming back to our recommendations, 1 to 5. We have Rick moved and Peter Lucas second. So all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Moving on to, sorry, yeah. Financial report.
Not second.
Moved by Rick and seconded by Jack. That is the report being received. Bruce is away surfing in Australia apparently, but Josh Patrick's
Not surfing. Short board.
Would you like to briefly?
I think they will take this read. I did just want to have this particular just to highlight to council the salary variance. That's what we have there on page 194. It's not significant. So early in the year, it's something that ELT is applying its mind to. We currently have 40 vacancies within the system at the moment. That's made up of a combination of new annual plan positions, a general staff turnover, new summer students coming on, and our new approach of internal promotions. All of these are contributing to our number of vacancies, but we'll also be working with the LT as to whether this high vacancy and salary variance at this point in time, what impact that's having on our deliverables, on our BAU delivery. It's higher than I had expected to see, so really in the term. So we'll be looking at that with the LT and we'll be coming back to because we're putting in place and what impacts that might be having on our delivery. Just wanted to flag that to council at this stage.
Yeah. Just in regard to delivery and the fact that we're having a difficulty, contractors also having similar difficulties in picking up staff that we can't contract out some of the delivery work.
I don't believe so, as in we're having a number of our staff that are poached. I talked to regional council CEs across the country, similar places. I suspect that their salaries are fortunately more than anything consultancy.
Just to being able to get out basic money done with right.
Yes.
Whether it's more expensive to get contractors to do it in-house.
If the model goes to more that's why we don't generally do that unless it's necessary. But part of looking at this may well be that we need to use contractors to catch up if that's necessary. Back to you.
Any other questions or comments? If there's none, then we'll go ahead. That was moved by Brett and seconded by Jack to receive the financial report. All in favour say aye. Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Moving into first off being the NRC's emissions reduction plan, item 7.1, page 1. Jack and Peter Lucas. Any comments?
Question, Chair. The carbon footprint of a public transport. Surely that should be shared with Comrade District Council. While hearing pick up the total.
At the table.
Oh, there's one.
We are responsible for the
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm just generally stuck in the big city, right? After that,
but also we to raise more on the front.
Good try. Sorry, can you say that again? Please, I think Joseph, fair point.
So the reason for it was we're providing transport, so.
He's bouncing my pen.
no,
Well, we can certainly work with them, and we're always talking to them. Budget approach that we do see.
yeah, I just think you have a user impact on.
I don't think we're breaking the law or bending it or in any way. I think we're just complying with the law as it stands. We get funded by government, so therefore we have to take up the responsibility of the mission. I don't think it's any way around that. Please, tell me if I'm wrong.
or just, if I can tell a little bit, as to who is the beneficiary. It's, Tamarau residents who are the beneficiary of. Taking and sharing that responsibility, probably is funding to avoid beneficiaries of funding. Just some of the kind.
Yes. Because current analysis, you don't see it in here. There are big problems that actually should be saved and should be measurable. We should get some more better offsets. People use the bus. I didn't see that in there. I'm just trying to legal something. Government does their analysis, funding public transport, so they believe reduce public transport.
Just had a signal that's very difficult to hear, so I should speak up.
The 3 minutes on.
Okay. All right, so, so in terms of this discussion, are you okay for us to move on? Understanding that this is, the system works?
Yeah, I'd like to see that, especially that last reform to save vehicles by our public transport should be part of the equation. And, but you know, okay.
And Chair, may I mention, I'd just like to thank staff for providing some interesting and sets out our responsibilities and should inform our priorities from here on. And particularly like to draw council's attention to part 5, the emissions reduction, offsetting and setting. It's really good detail there for us to consider with regard to adopting policy moving along. So I thank staff.
Yes, Phil, Jack, and understand, I know that Tom's online as well, and understanding that this will be a work in progress. Yeah, even as we set targets aligned with the Paris Agreement, as we achieve them, we will still need to, you know, take up higher ambition moving forward, but appreciate the staff putting this together. We have our clear emission reductions targets. We've identified our options for reduction. We've done our cost benefit analysis. You know, in future we may expand the scope to include other sectors as recommendations come down the line. Are there any other comments or questions, Jed?
Yeah, Natalie online.
Yes.
Yeah, Natalie, I've just a couple of things. IPCC. Have you referenced any of your research through there? With that report, I know it's 3,000 pages, but some of this being researched through the IPCC. Where do you get your information from? You say it's science-based target initiative.
Yes. So, I mean, we follow the IPCC recommendations quite closely when they come out. There's nothing that directly points to like a direct IPCC reference in this report. But those are the guidelines that we generally follow. In terms of science-based targets, that's not an IPCC directive. That it's a global body, but they exist in its own right, and it's sort of global best practice for setting emissions reduction targets.
Okay, so the IPCC has reference points for climate change. Do you reference against that with your science-based targets?
I think we're talking about two different things here. So, I mean, the IPCC is kind of where we get directive around taking mitigation action. Yeah. The science-based target initiative, it's not part of the IPCC. It exists in its own right. So I think we're getting a bit confused between the two there. Okay. They're independent of each other.
Is your science-based, where is that based against?
Yes, like it's very easy to put science-based target initiative, but where do we find that initiatives that you're referencing to? Do you have a reference point?
Yeah, I mean the science-based target initiative is if you Google that, you'll be able to find it for sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I can send. Pardon?
Just want to know why you've got such a strong word about indisputable.
Yeah.
Scientific evidence around human-induced climate change is indisputable. That's quite a strong word. I just wonder where you get that science-based.
Oh yeah, so that'll be IPCC. Yeah.
Okay, you get it from the IPCC?
Yep.
Okay, is that what it says?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. Oh, good.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Amy.
Thanks for the report to the start. Really appreciate it, and awesome to have workshop data from one unit here. I guess I just want to keep front of mind for all of us as we move through the long-term plan. That's how we sort of show our commitment. You know, we're signing up to this today, but the real way that we can move forward and resource it is through the long-term plan. So I look forward to having the workshop discussions around what it looks like in reality.
Sure, Amy. I just have two comments. One is around the significance of the policy. I think as we move forward, this type of policy will be, you know, more significant, and therefore we may need to consider public consultation. You know, this is social license work, a lot of our climate work, and the communities out there that are concerned and showing our leadership around ramping down emissions would be great. My second is around marine vessels. As far as I knew, that's our biggest limit, our marine fleet, or close to it. Public transport, we're getting there. But secondly, marine vessels. And we don't have a plan to address that. If we don't have a team that are ready to address that, then we need a new team. We need a team that will, you know, there's a lot of initiatives going on around electric propelled marine fleets and the like. So let's keep that in mind as we continue these discussions moving forward. Natalie, is that your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on the maritime fleet. So we didn't include it in our abatement cost analysis because there wasn't kind of any really fit for purpose alternatives right now. But we plan to keep a close eye on it, and I'm meeting the CEO of Nort, who just based next door at Mackay Electrical next month. They're working really hard on electric propulsion. So we it's not like we just ignored it. We definitely considered it. We just felt like at the moment it was hard to kind of cost up a fit for purpose alternative.
Good to have those explanations included in the reports. It was certainly something that our community asked me about as well. Let's not take a silo approach and think we're the only people trying to address this, in this region, let alone in this country, let alone around the world. There's lots of technologies around and networks around this. Thank you. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well spotted. The decision to not buy a electric new vessel was one that we had to wear because the previous council took that decision based on a lot of deep thought and evidence from Jim Lyle, and we were really keen to transition over to fully electric vehicle, but it wasn't just a matter of cost, it was a matter of safety and the ability of an electric vehicle to last the long distances that our vessel would have. That our vessel would need to take in our long stretched out region. So on the basis of staff safety and safety of people that we might be rescuing and the other functions that vessel will be undertaking, we kind of regretfully had to go with the current technology. But we'll get another chance to look at it in a year or 5 or maybe 10, I don't know. But that's just the background to the decision that the previous council came to. We didn't really have an option.
There was no lead long enough.
No, that there was a time also when your electric vehicle, you're concerned about driving your electric vehicle and not be able to charge, right? And so if we take the same perspective of marine, where are all the charging stations as well, you know, like let's open that thinking, but anyway, I very much appreciate that. If there's no further comments or questions, we can take these fine. Recommendations together, moved by Jack and seconded by Peter Lucas. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Thank you for that. Moving on to item 7.2, biosecurity operational plan, page 213. There are 3 recommendations here.
Happy to move to one.
Jack's happy to move. Jeff, oh, Marnie, yeah, seconded by Marnie. Any comments or questions, Joe?
Yes, Commissioner, massive problem, I'm looking into it, and, I'm not that nuance in this stuff, and I just wondered if this has been through Jeff's moving code, and,
Yeah, I've got to answer that. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's been through the big page twice, and we've had a really good, Jeff and I, particular report over it, so I'm very happy with the operational plan. We've got, we've refocused quite a few of the KPIs. And I noticed that biosecurity has quite a number of KPIs in that regard. It sets quite a good example for the rest of the organisation. The operational plan is actually a statutory document under the biosecurity section 100. So we have to have one that has to set out what we will do, how we will do it, and that will require. So it's quite descriptive, and yeah, we're pretty happy with it. Thank you.
Just there.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks, John and team. It's a really good document to take to ratepayers meetings, because they often talk about plants and, you know, why haven't we done that plant, or why aren't we doing this? And you can bring the plan and say, bang, here we are. Go and see golf. That's why we're not doing that plant, or that's what's happening to it. Because, you know, they just think every weed is a weed, and don't see as a project list, and eradication list, exclusion, and so forth. So thanks again, and it's easy to read, and it's been through, it's just great document. Thank you.
I'd just like to say, Joe, as well, it's since COVID, actually, the team was under especially with some stuff. And with Don, we've been in numerous meetings, we might get to reverse that and we're reevaluating that going forward. It's just we've got a way to start happening. It's only so much money, so prioritisation. Joe's team, Joe, got the last name. No, not Joe Barr, and yes, she is definitely trying. We're behind. Our plans, but you know, we're meeting every couple of months to make sure that the plans going through, but it's going to be difficult to get on top of some of these weeks that have to be ready. Plans not. We're okay.
okay, so just, well, I think your team, we do rely on this. We go to see, we go and focus on other areas. Thank you.
I'd just like to bring up as well is that we had a meeting with Mickey in a way looking at the plan, freshwater plan, and that is a major threat. Probably worse than food, just about, because it can be transferred in the whole of the jet just the water, and it sets out little like a spawn, and it can stick to it, and it's very hard to kill. Sunlight won't kill it. Detergents won't kill it, so somebody was skiing in an area, not really realising it comes up Kaitaia Lake, for example, zooms around there. So actually, Nikki's team is actually talking to the locals. They're looking at maybe banning all sports on Kaitaia Lake. Awesome.
Once it doesn't become in swimming pools.
But it's, you know, it's another threat. They're really jokes.
Just on what, councillor, explained about the shellfish. I am keen to learn what the impact is in the future for our native freshwater shellfish. I mean, we have had opportunity to discuss the Kyle, Kaitaia and all these different types of things, but what is the potential impact for those native species, particularly when we're coming into summer, when we are learning that people are going to be coming north, they're going to be bringing their toys with them, and what things are in place to at least mitigate the potential risks.
Mickey is coming up with the point we discussed it last week, but it's the worst thing is the only way you get rid of it, we don't even know how to sort of it's an island dog seas. And so what it does is the claims are there as big as it can, just wipes it reproduce really quickly. So it's a real pain. But we're unsure how to stop it. Even if we get it, we're unsure how to get rid of it. Suck it up, mat it. No, because if you mat it, claims is closed. Boring is apparently what they do. But you know, Mickey and Don's definitely it's a major concern. So be assured.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, just because the plans are coming out on a regular basis, biospheric plans. It's quite expensive to make. Are they able to be reviewed in part so that it's just a slip out page that's able to be added to the document? For instance, for the plan suddenly becoming the top priority or something dropping off in terms of priority, are they able to be reviewed individually without having to change and reprint the whole document?
Jack, would you like to?
Good point, Marty. But you have to understand that the operational plan under the Biosecurity Act reports to the functions of the Regional Pest Management Plan, which can only address, well, essentially only address pests that are declared in the plan. Okay, so it's basically how we spend our money and how we effectively control or eradicate or educate or whatever we set out in our plan to do. So, but there is a little bit of flexibility in the act and in the management plan for us to act on non-declared pests. And mostly that has to come from MPI declared non-violent organism, and they'll go further. But there is a grey area, of course. I mean, clams could be in there. We don't know. These things happen time to time. Caliper's no example. Luckily, Caliper was declared a non-violent organism, so that MPI is able to give some money. So, yep. So I'm sorry, I can't quite answer fully your question. What I'm saying is that we have to juggle constantly along the lines that you've just said.
Yeah,
we're going to find new things, and we may have to put some other things on the shelf, on the back burner, in order to deal with the new emergencies, because they're coming all the time. I mean, we're actually at risk of bird flu, and I don't know what MPI is doing about bird flu, but they've found them incorporated on seedlings, so it could turn up here with some of our native seedlings any time. So it's not just our kuta and our company that's impaired, it's all our wildlife, and our habitats are impaired all of the time, and climate change is a factor, and of course so is international travel. So it's always going to be a battle that we will win some this time. But I believe that we're constantly reevaluating. One of the things that we've had done through the climate change with party was to get a climate change biosecurity plan, and that was a plan where a risk management approach that was put together last 6 months. Was a fantastic document. It did come to the last 2 meetings ago, I think, of the Biosecurity University Living Party. So that is doing quite a lot of work in terms of informing the development of the next regional pest management plan. Yeah, I know. So it's a combination of trying to catch up and trying to get ahead. Best we can do. I think we're doing okay. By the way.
Lots of work, lots of keen interest from the councillors to take the lead too. So really appreciate that. Certainly, biosecurity has been raised by our communities I'm noticing with the local government reforms discussions and the recent, national policy statement on Indigenous biodiversity. When I'm talking with other, councils and that, about who's going to take on what responsibilities, it appears that the terrestrial biodiversity is to be managed more, essentially, and it's in, it's district council. It's district council. So when James Shaw was here in Kirikiri and launched the NPS for Indigenous biodiversity, he didn't talk to us. He talked to the district councils. They're working with the district councils on pilots with intermediaries such as Reconnecting Northern. They're not talking to us. And so I'm just trying to, get an idea out there in a space where we have very limited resources, that it could be the potential that we're moving our focus to the marine area. Because the judge has told us this is our space and others haven't been doing it so well. And it looks like DOC and the district council will be doing the land stuff. So let's keep an eye on that moving forward. But I think that regional council essentially picked up those sorts of things because others perhaps weren't doing that well. But the ministers and government and the way they're targeting their resources not towards us either. We're just not in that council. District council. Yeah. Okay. With that,
I'd just like to say on behalf of our council, we are very strong compared to the others. Well, like Mickey went away a few days and really Bay of Plenty and Waikato council and that, so just, and it's a big budget, it's $1 million a month, but we are probably the most active council this year.
Sure, and I think we should look at increasing the budget, with this about space during the long-term plan.
That doesn't write a response. Staff tell us when we are going to actually review our catchment management.
Do you like to act now? Should we come back? How can I that one? Thank you, Joe. Noting that. Any other? Okay, so on 97.2, moved by Jack and seconded by Marty. Really good, robust discussions. Those 3 recommendations there. There's no further comments. We'll go ahead and all of them is that aye? That's Karen. Thank you. Appointment of regional on-scene commander, item 7.3. Ray. I think that Amy's going to speak in there.
Bring it on.
Amy.
All 4 recommendations.
All 4 together. Yeah, let's move them all together. Any questions or comments? Just a procedural question. We've only got 1 name to us, so it's either, is there a reason why we don't get several names come to us and make a decision? We already have 3. Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. But this is for Bruce. Yeah. Was anybody else able to open the regional on-scene commander? Must be my technical issue. That's fine. Any other questions or comments? Rex, they get to go ahead.
Yep, thank you very much.
Okay, then that's us. All those 4 recommendations together. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. On to the water resilience funds. Allocation of remaining long-term plan year 3 allocations. Page 247. Am I in the right place? 774? 271.
In the online report that we can see, 271, item 7.
I've got one. Sorry, I must have taken it down the wrong page number. 4 origination. Yeah, it's the same. The next one, 7.4, small recommendations, order please, order, we'll still have several that need to be first. Who would like to move that? Lucas. Do we, councillors have, sorry. What's that? It's just should be one. There's been a way. Councillors, numerous of us reached out to the and we have had briefings on this sedimentation issue since February, well, it was caused by Cyclone Hale and then exacerbated by Cyclone Gabriel. Currently, landowners are not really taking the responsibility of fixing it, and we have extremely vulnerable communities out here. So, to me, this is a way that we can perhaps show our support and our commitment to seeking a better outcome in the future for the community. Any questions or Jared?
Yeah, just a question I asked at the agenda preview stage. I support the program. And these look like some pretty sensible locations. There's one of the questions: is it legally okay for us to allocate money to an individual? This is a question for the group manager. And if so, do we have a means of ensuring this right through the audit process on that?
I've got Cameron waiting for this work and share with the grass question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I'm finding it very difficult to hear online, but I think, Jack, did you ask about allocating to an individual?
Yes.
So Hone Dalton, he was the CEO at the Te Kotahitanga e Mahi Kaha Trust in Kaikoui. So the original allocation from the Water Resilience Fund went to that trust. And then Hone resigned from the trust but wanted to carry on with the work. I'm not sure of the legal status of that. I can find that out.
Thank you. I think it'd be just to cover us. I mean, probably 100% okay, but just to cover us legally, I'd like to make sure it's covered off. And if there is a grey area, then there should be another way to be found of channeling that money, I'm sure, to get it to the right place. Maybe it's just another round of water. I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it with staff to make sure that that's all smooth. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next, do we have an idea of how much the water is victim back?
Chair, that's either opposed. Those all over the remaining. That would be to that commission.
Thank you.
Yes, it's good going. Actually, that we want to make this year south mainstream to be where if you want to go next, that's the soil. That's got was how many minutes people spent like with water dividing up the water scheme. We moved it in the meeting. You got taken problems with the first water cannot be built as water quality, but drinking water standards which you can't really meet on the small scale. So were they just being the water by the country? Okay, what makes me interested?
Some of them can't even afford filters between creek and house.
So this fund, because I know that the authority comes from the team as well. So for the wide community together, how would that be managed? Do you go to a fund, some organisation there, or run through that? Okay, so then you would apply, if you're as the land the council, I think you would have to apply to the fund.
So they've already done a survey through the community and identified vulnerable members of that community.
Okay. So how is it, how is it promoted? So if you're a household, how do you know that you're a target?
Through the council trust and they've been.
Okay.
be interested, and even for us to think what next, like if this is the end of that fund, you know, what next moving forward to support our resilient community. Any other, all right, that is Water Resilience Fund 7.4, 4 recommendations moved by Rick and seconded by Peter Lucas. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, that's carried, thank you. 7.5, principal advisor role.
I'll move.
I believe that this was covered in a recent council workshop. Any questions or comments?
The comment making as a mover is, I'm sceptical that we don't have a system, whether it be driven by Minister of Local Government or Local Government New Zealand or an associated regional council body, that we are sufficiently informed as councils. I think it can be done far more effectively and efficiently of dispensing of information, etc., to be able to open vitals and tell us what vitals are. It should be done more effectively, efficiently, cost efficiently on a more centralised scale. But I'm happy to go with the motion to move the motion. And in the second that, yes, we a long way from corridors of power. It sounds as though the area of what's the horizons or Wellington, it's only a doorstep away from central government, so it's be fully informed. We're not. So we do need assistance, and I think we will assistance as a government's going in the future. Thanks.
Any other? All right, then. All right.
No, I just want to, under that considerations, the funding done for this year, and under that number one, whatever, so we're at 278. So it's going to be secured through the long-term plan or reallocation of existing resources. So do we have are we leaving that up to? Or will it come up in the long? That's what I'm just wondering. Will it come up in the long-term plan? Or
You're the chair.
so it will be affirming the appointment that
You're the chair. Answers to that, yes, that'll be something. Yes, I'll look to recruit permanent position by this funding, as in I don't believe we'll keep a quality person. A fixed term role, one that's not bound through getting SCE. It's my job to provide the capacity and resources to support council and find other options.
Timothy, sorry, Ninja.
Well, as I understand, it's a trial. And so we're going to give it a crack, Nigel, and then if it works, then we find things to go.
Just one chair. The discussion at the start was a trial.
Yeah.
It goes into the long term, and it's a discussion that actually have a trial to then get it into the long term plan. I think on talking to other CEs around through other regional councils, this is a capacity that the majority of our councils are involved in. Something to support it. Hence, we need to go through how we're going to find a long term funding for it. It's still discussion with council around whether you need to support it through the LGP. If we're not, then I think how we
Jack.
Yeah, my question is simply around salary. 130K seems manifestly way low for a job of this grade and importance. So tell me that what percentage of the expected salary is 130 expected to cover?
So at the moment, we've got 130 there, given that we're already halfway through this financial year. So it'll actually be higher than this financial year. We're still having a look at the grading of the advertising on this for the advertising. We'll figure out what the role is there and when we come through. The FTP will have a salary that is commensurate to the.
Thank you.
You say this is a full-time role or not, 3 days a week? 30 hours. 40 hours a week, seems a lot.
Yeah, from my discussion with other CEs that have got these roles, they see it's definitely a full-time role. It's about providing that capacity to support the council's strategic priorities, provide that support for the CE and for the ELT. The group managers are very busy here running the show. We wanting to operate and to be efficacy, strategic space. We need some strategic growth and capacity to be able to do so. So all other CEs have said it is a full-time role. The other thing that you would struggle to do is to actually attract someone of a caliber if you're only offering 2 or 3 days a week. I suggest.
Except if there was a week of council.
Any other questions or comments before we go to move that forward? So that's the principal advisor, item 3.5, 2 recommendations. Moved by Marty, seconded by Peter Lucas. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Chair's report, item 8.5, I move that. Light. We're working on the content there, like, but and our communications as well. I like to blog, but I don't want to overkill everybody, so we'll try and find a sweet spot in there and have things that you think might be relevant that you'd like to know more about. Kill that. All right. So, yes, Jim.
So just out of that, give us one thing that you think made a difference on one meeting that we should know.
Well, I guess for me, what has really stood out over the past month is the work around MMH director. It's probably taken most of my time, to be honest, having meetings with mayors and these regional sectors and things like that has been good. But to get these things through today's council meeting, then it will lead up to today's decision. Questions?
Just one on the waste of energy.
Yeah.
Was that 3 mayors, 4 mayors, 1 as a chair? Was that fully informed meeting? Was it just mayors and chair?
You posted us in all of those. So it's sort of like, it's being driven by Mayor Jackson, Kaitaia. So if it goes ahead, then that would most likely be in Kaitaia, and they will be served in Auckland Council. That's what the current discussions are. But it's a long way.
Just a question to that. Is that as a substitute for the proposed don't go?
It has been proposed that it could be, yes.
Just a question. That was the same meeting that was also had an online movement. Yeah, I zoomed in on it. Very important. It was basically Mayor Gibson introduced it, and then the consultants who were intending to. I think it was that one. Sorry.
This is one John was in attendance as well, and all the clubs. So but he has like nearly every month. Yeah.
I zoomed in on the one where we had the consultants, giving us the benefits, and I was impressed with it. Obviously, it's all subject to consent, and a whole bunch of other stuff like emissions and air is a huge range of issues. But I have to say that as a sales pitch, it was pretty damn good. It was a sales pitch. I think it was a sales pitch. It's not the picture. But I'm saying it's going. If this progresses, then it's going to be a massive job for consent staff. It'll be an incredible job, and we'll sit there to hire some outside people that put it all together for us, and it would have to be balanced against all the other things that we're trying to do in the space. Yeah, it's a big issue, but it's coming. It's coming.
Basically, it's one of the key kaupapa that Mayor Jackson has brought to the Mayoral Forum, in our friendships that we have, we try and support one another. But with this one, we're the regulator, so hear more about. Moved up, Lucas has seconded to receive Chair's report. All in favour say aye. Against, that's carried, thank you. Moving into 8.2, Chief Executive's report. What is that? All right. We would like to make any questions or comments. Right, no, I'm saying 8.1 is.
Like 280. Hold on.
Questions or comments about this? Let's go, check.
Obviously, I guess it's for Don, the Kalupa tendering service, concluding the 19th September. Have we got a?
Yes, both on Friday, the group working through those at the moment, we haven't got to finish working at the moment. But we expect that, I expect they will reach a conclusion by the end of this week.
And do you think it's going to go to one particular outfit, or might they be shared out?
Yeah, no, it very well, parts of it may be shared. Okay, we don't know.
Now, I just wanted to, Don asked it on 8.2 about the wild deer response. Sorry, 292, 292. So the Kaitaia, the deer seem to get out of Kaitaia farm every time. Is it going to get? Are we going to have more control on that particular on those farms, or do they seem to escape all the time from those farms?
I don't know. Yes, we've reached a real, I guess it's say a woodshed moment with that particular farm. This is a deer farm north of Kaitaia, which has been in disrepair for well over a decade. In this operation, the regulatory powers of MPI came together with the DOC and ourselves by operation. So the farm is actually NAT non-compliant, stock aren't tagged, according to the law. They are suffering ill health, for example, welfare issues, and the fencing standards are not scratched. So this particular owner has been taken to court by MPI, and we expect that the department, at this stage, we understand the department is tracking down the course of revoking this person's permit to keep them. And consequences of that would be that he had to have removed or destroyed. So I think that will hopefully bring to an end what has been a large risk to the nearby Pukekaroro reserve, Holy Reserve, adjacent to this farm.
Thanks very much.
One at a time, sorry.
The fencing, the profits and all that.
Oh, yeah, and an additional initiative, and as a result of the funding that the department has provided for the deer plan, they are in the process of appointing a region-wide fence inspector. That's another great achievement because it allows consistent application of the law right across the region for all the deer farms that we have.
Thank you. Along the same train, in the meantime, while this process between being prosecuted and success at the end of it, what's happening about the management of the farm that's going to be able to stop geoscaping?
It is under surveillance, and it has been in this state for some time. So, and the community is well aware too of the situation. So we've got good contacts down there. As I said, it's under survey,
But we expect the process to be put in place for removal. Yeah, so even last week, one was shot. That's why she.
Any other questions, Jack?
I'd just like to thank the Coast Care team for putting some great work and also and the Jeff Hastings. I get a lot of problems, but they do a fantastic job and we get very good feedback from communities. And they're doing it all over the entire region, so thanks to them. Just a little heads up that the latest funding that we got was called latest. No, but yeah, that's ended, so we're going to have to obviously start working on trying to get some more money out of MB or MFE or whoever they can get it from, but that we may have to spend ourselves for another budget internally to fund this work, because this work is vitally important to everyone. These lakes are, I mean, I know I say this all the time, but it's important. Every lake, every single lake is actually individually precious. They're all unique and they're unique on the planet. We have the greatest selection of gem lakes in New Zealand, if not the world. And we get, when we get results there, when our team goes in and kills all the weeds off, kills the fish off, we get a permanent improvement. It's not something you have to keep coming back to all the time. So it's always a great investment. And also it's a fantastic example of how we co-manage, co-involve, co-govern with Tangawhia. So for all those reasons, I'm just saying that we need to steel ourselves to come to the party if need be to keep this thing going at basically the same place we are now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. I really liked that Cole's infographic on the lakes too. I'd like a copy of that to share at a higher level. People listening by
Kaitaia is home to many gem lakes, and of course the traditional owners of those lakes are Ngā iwi o Te Hikote, Ngā Tikuri, Te Ahu, Ngā Kakoto, Te Ahu, and Ngā Tikau. And on page 207, where our attention is drawn to the current legal proceedings. And I'm keen to learn what the current legal proceeding, what potential it has to impact on the relationships, post-settlement relationships with those iwi that are involved in the process. Mindful that we were to learn some joint memorandums, seeking directions from the court by 18th of September. But I think outside of this process, there's always a potential for key relationships to be impacted. And if we circle back around to a key bit of work that the council is considering at the moment, it is water planning, freshwater planning. And when we look at what the result is from past work, I think it's important for us to think hard about how we preserve water rights so that those treaty settlement agreements between iwi and the Crown are supported by local government, and that we ensure that assets transferred back to iwi are not weaponised against them. And what are we doing to ensure that situations like this don't evolve again?
That's a specific question.
The question is, what are we doing to ensure that situations like this don't evolve again? And I'm talking about the treaty settlement iwi that have large portions of land or assets transferred back to them. It's an important opportunity for our regional council through consenting processes and decision making to see how we can uplift the communities around us. Because for iwi, one of the big jobs is making jobs. And that's the background to my question. Because there comes a point when we must work together and not just write about it in documents like Payne's Committee.
Councillor Peter Lewis. I support and agree with the raising up. There are multiple avenues. There's no single channel or avenue that we need to be doing to respond to that. Yes, we've got statutory roles and responsibilities under the RMA, and we're through Te Ahu reviewing some of those statutory roles and functions, and specifically how we're able to engage with and ensure that we have a typical process around those regulatory functions. But I think outside of those processes, there's also an obligation on us as a council around building those relationships with our Te Tiriti partners, so that we have a clear understanding of aspirations of our statutory responsibilities, of treaty settlement responsibilities, to make sure that we don't act in a way that breaches what those treaty settlements provided. And I guess I think we've got a responsibility right on governance way down through to our staff. So I don't have specific, this is what we're doing, other than it's important for us as an organisation that we use all of our levels of governance and management and roles and functions as we make sure that we give a bit to those treaty settlements.
I think it was probably really good if we have a think about how we ensure that councillors as elected members are aware of these political issues. If we're in court over matters with iwi, I'd particularly like to know, you know, particularly when we meet each other.
Just to comment that Kaitaia is actually, it's not just writing, it is an action for its action plan, and such as us to be able to okay.
In response and with your permission, I would like to make one final comment, Madam Chair. And that is, I think it's important for us to learn what it has cost England defending their rights to water, because that will help us understand the background behind the work that needs to be done in Te Ahu. Because going to court is never something that people want to do. And obviously, people are defending their rights, and that costs money. And that's money that's not going into economic development, and it's money that we could seek to make sure isn't spent like that in the future through strengthening our relationships and our decision-making process.
Going back to Pātiki, which I will follow a little bit, but the rest of Pātiki out at Mataroa Peninsula, out at Pururua, I just wonder what state of the play is there. The reason I bring it up is Pururua Peninsula was, it doesn't mention it in here, it's page 297. Was, I thought it was shaping to be one of our fortresses of being predator-free. So it's just going to show us how difficult it's going to be in a place where you've got so many more millionaires per square mile than anywhere in North of the Republic. But certainly a very wealthy area that isn't able to get on top of a cap that nobbled quite a number of Pātiki. I don't know how many Pātiki is still existing out there. I think there were 13 or 14 released, but quite a number were taken out in a couple of weeks. So I just wonder if staff have any idea of how many Pātiki are left, accounted for. So just reiterate the difficulty that we are going to be for the 2050, even if we're going to nobble every possum, every mustelid, every rat, still cats and dogs. So, but the question and a comment. If there's anybody there, can I answer that?
We'd like to come back to you, maybe on the case or not, but they do the main. But they are tracking towards zero possums in that area, very low rat numbers, very low stoat numbers. So election that time, public numbers are building, and vulnerability of them, because there are more of them, it's a part of each store. So that is likely to happen as we track towards Peace Creek Peninsula.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And we permit predators in the form of cats. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Joe.
Yes, so I think, council. Page 310, GO's report. To taking the Mars Soil Conservation rollout. I really think we need, as part of council's action plan, to really get some, meet our statutory requirements to get some action planning done right across the north. Refer to this bottom page, it's talking about co-funding through a deadline called proper planting on erosion prone hillsides subject to supply. We've got difficulties stabilising in the pipe. Program especially stabilising recent north segment erosion goes. We don't even know enough supply of pipe. How are we going to do it? I just want to see the logistics, because they've got the freshwater planning ideas for this stage, and involving thousands of kilometres of fencing. Don't know if we get to this place. And don't know if we get populous. I think we should actually do part of an action report. We actually do an action plan, how we actually do this stuff, and how we get the logistics to work for these tensions. CEO, it's an easy run to John.
Look, I think it goes hand in hand with freshwater planning. You just have to all by themselves. You've got to have what other proactive implementation measures that you're going to do to support a catchment management approach. KMR is an example where, and it was there as an exemplar catchment as part of the central freshwater package, so it's put there and it's got a lot of funds that other catchments don't have as an exemplar catchment to see what can be achieved through some of these different tools and some of these different models of supporting landowners. Part of our challenge then is that, okay, then what can we do across the rest of our catchments across the region to be able to support that, and over what time frame can you do that? I think as we move forward next year, we can move forward with freshwater planning change. The other part of it is the action plan, and that's where we need to flesh out that more of what goes, or what's the package that we're taking forward. I know Ruben and the team are coming back to, I'm not sure if it's full council, if it's natural resources working, you might know. Ruben's not here at the moment, but around our strategy for poplar and willow nursery, what is our capacity, what is our vision for the future? Oh, see, Ruben's just popped up on the computer screen. Thanks, everyone. So please feel free to jump in, Ruben. But I think that's part of our suite of tools that we need to really look at as a council to make sure that we've got an integrated approach to how we manage our we don't do specific catchment management from a land use and soil conservation perspective at the moment. Is discussion a lot at the start of our freshwater plan change discussions.
What's the age, please?
Soil and weather control.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. My suggestion, right? My suggestion is though, what's happening though is that that's an integrated discussion around how we're managing the freshwater to achieve what they want to. So I think the conversation was an ongoing one. We've started it through the freshwater ban change, and I think those these sorts of things that KMR are doing are the things that you can look at the action plan for the rest of our region. Ruben, do you want to add to that at all? I see you're still there on the screen.
Oh, kia ora koutou. Sorry, I'm struggling to hear. So I'll just add briefly that so Jono, it's really good points, but also what we brought to the Natural Resources Working Party around the soil conservation strategy as well, which does support an integrated catchment approach. But it's just the time needed to implement that. Then on top of that, we've also got our freshwater farm plan implementation, which requires us to identify the catchment challenges and context and values in respect of implementing freshwater farm plans. So the package of work in its entirety is moving towards that catchment-based approach. It's just waiting for all those pieces to fall together to enable those outcomes.
Thank you, Ruben. Right. And saying that, any other questions or comments about the CE report? There's lots of wins. We're doing so much out there. Thank you to everybody. I'm liking hearing the promotions on the radio about our Hikurangi passenger service, and yeah, hoping to see more farmers links promoted as well. I still think it was the old hospital reputation of it. Yeah, so that's good. In terms of the KMR, the eligibility for the call of expressions of interest, how far north in the catchment does that call for EOI encompass? Understanding that Manulai is at the top of the KMR catchment, would do with farm restoration. They've got a group of community who want to take action. Instead to be eligible.
As I understand the top catchment right up to the top. Yeah. Yeah, they should just be able to go on the website, but they can. Yeah,
well, maybe we should. Maybe next one then could.
So
Do something, John, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, there's a new one coming out. It's called Catchment Concepts, Challenges and Values. It is going to be part of the expression of the farm plan. So it covers stuff that you're looking at. So part of the expression plan. Well, so that's a new thing coming out from government, but it encompasses all of the freshwater.
Thanks, Jeff.
You can actually look like one.
Is that came up?
Yeah.
I think we're struggling to get that people to take part because financially it's sort of 50% in or 70% so. If that's, I was thinking about the top as well. The amount of land that's moved in because the next of that is still discovering and Thomas did a great job. That lines are pretty obvious, but they do a great job holding back voting's pretty well in the past. The problem we have is we don't maintain.
Thank you to our councillor for representing and providing leadership on KMR. Yeah, let's maybe those of us that are in contact with the communities like this call for expressions of interest. Last one is just on private plan change. Kaitaia submission. I honestly don't recall it coming through councillor desk. Could have done though. Go to my calendar. It's a private plan change submission, something that we usually Ruben, would our councillors be involved in?
Oh, kia ora, Chair. Yes, so the delegations manual delegates those decisions to the policy and planning manager in situations where we don't have time to bring it to council. And then we're required to notify council of the submission. So we haven't provided the details of the submission itself, which we will do in accordance with the delegations manual. But in a nutshell, we submitted through those delegations rather than seeking approval from council.
And we had that over Christmas period, so we just the one line, perhaps what the plan change was supposed to be.
Oh, sorry, Chair, I can't hear you.
What was the private plan change applied for?
Oh, so it was for additional development capacity, and so it was a private plan change effectively to enable further development in a rural zone from memory.
Just on page 6, I guess on the pushing of their way to it's take that 20 minutes.
We can't put out big.
In regards to it, I didn't see comments on digital interference with drivers. I think it's 3 big ones where speed, sequence, and I've forgotten the third one, but I didn't see digital distraction in there. Yeah. Which I'm surprised. I mean, of course, you can't on all jobs you see if someone is using a phone, except from the record on the phone.
Now, noting that we have just under an hour, few more items to go through this morning. Let's go back. I moved that. Peter Lucas seconded. Our chief executive's report. There's no more questions and comments. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 9.1, receipt of committee minutes.
Yep.
Great.
I'd like to be faithful.
All together. Just great to see, you know, the progress to get. I do appreciate that. If there's no questions or comments, we'll go ahead and receive those minutes of those 5 meetings. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Thank you. Working party updates and chairperson's briefing item 9.2. Thank you, Amy.
Don't see.
It's really great to see the river working groups meeting and looking forward to attending some of these upcoming ones as well. If there's no questions or comments, we can go ahead and move on the report being received, moved by Amy, seconded by Marty, one favor, say aye. Okay. Carried. We're going to move into excluding the public. Can I have a mover? Right. Seconded by John, one favor, say aye. Against, that's carried. We might we just break for 10 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Yeah. Thank you.